Making an amazing turkey dinner does not have to take all day, and in fact, the roasted turkey thigh dinner I'll be showing you today can be prepped and completed in under 1.5 hours. So let's get to cooking. We will be using gold potatoes, organic gold potatoes, to make our mashed potatoes. We will also be using frozen green beans in the air fryer for a nice crunch and bite to a usual green bean side dish. And then, of course, we have our turkey thighs. These are all natural turkey thighs, and I'm cooking 4 of them. And to start out, as I always do with poultry, I give it a wash. I soak it in water and citrus or water and vinegar. Today you can see that I'm using lemons. So after letting it soak for just a few minutes, I give the turkey a final rinse and then I remove it from the water bath. This is the perfect time to inspect if there's any extra fat you need to remove or extra skin folds. Because we're roasting these, we do want to dry them off, so I dry them off with a kitchen paper towel, and then I place them in my nonstick baking pan that I already have a sliced red onion. You could use yellow onion if you prefer. I like to use onions because they release a lot of delicious liquid to help flavor the broth as well as the meat, and so my turkey is sitting on top of the onions. I have olive oil. Instead of olive oil rubbing it on your skin, you could absolutely use butter. Butter would help impart a nice brown color as it roasts. Now that I have my oil on there, I'm going to add my seasonings. And the seasoning I'm starting out with is garlic powder and parsley powder. Next up is onion powder. So you would use the same seasonings you would use for a whole turkey, which means, of course, I'm using ground sage. I love sage. Just smells like the holiday festive time, but you really can use it all throughout the year. Liquid smoke. Liquid smoke, of course, adds a smoky flavor, but also helps to impart a rich caramelized color, as well as the smoked paprika that we're adding will help impact the final color we get, which is what we want. I'm adding black pepper. You can add these seasonings to your taste, so I'm just adding a small amount to cover the turkey skin. Next up, we have the hickory smoked sea salt. I have a link to buy this on Amazon. A 2-pound bag will last most people for years, so it's definitely a great buy, and it adds a great flavor when you're cooking meat or vegetables. At this point, I turn my turkey over because I want to make sure that I rub the seasoning on the bottom of the turkey thigh as well as under the skin. And you want to do this when you're cooking a whole turkey as well. Make sure you add your butter, oil, and seasonings underneath the skin so that the meat gets seasoning. And I'm going to show you another tip that I do, another trick really, with my poultry to make sure that the seasoning gets all the way through and not just on the skin. So on the back side, I'm just adding a little bit more of my powdered seasonings that I added to the front side because I certainly want the meat to be as seasoned as the skin. There's nothing worse than having delicious chicken or turkey skin and the meat is completely bland. So we will not have that problem today if you follow my recipe. So massage the seasonings in to the back side of the turkey. And now I'm just moving the skin from the front side so that I can use my knife to pierce the skin. I'm just putting one piercing, but you could cut 2 slits if you like, and this will help the seasoning to penetrate the meat. So I'm not cutting through the skin because I want that to be intact for presentation. So we're just cutting through the meat portion, and you can do this whenever you're cooking turkey thighs or legs or breasts as well. So give it a massage, make sure everything is covered. I'm moving my onions around in the pan just to make it more even as it rests. And if you decide that you need more seasoning, then you can certainly add that at this point before you cook it. So I added more liquid smoke. I'm adding some stock. You can use veggie or chicken stock. Here I'm using mushroom stock that I found this year for the first time, and it really has a great flavor and great color. So I'm going to cover this with foil and bake it in my oven at 350 degrees for about an hour or until it gets to 165 degrees internal temperature. So while that's cooking, I am going to prep my potatoes. Even though they are organic, I am washing them in water and vinegar and giving them a scrub and then rinse them off and boil them in clear plain water. Boil them until they are fork tender, and then I drain them in my sink. Now, when I drain the hot water, I be sure to have the cold water running in my sink so I don't damage my PVC pipes. Next up, I am putting my drained potatoes in a big bowl and I'm just mashing it. I'm using a manual masher and I'm leaving the skin on because I like the rustic flavor and look. and it has extra nutrients. Next up, I'm adding heavy cream. So for a couple of pounds of potatoes, you want to add about a quarter cup, 1/4 cup of cream, and then mash and see how that does for you, and add more if you feel like you need it. Of course, you will adjust the amount of heavy cream you use depending upon how many potatoes you have. So this is a place where you just add a little at a time until you get to the texture that you like and prefer. So you can see that I continued mashing, and I added about a 1/2 cup of heavy cream, and now I'm adding my seasonings: black pepper, garlic powder with parsley. We like our food seasoned over here, y'all. And then next up, I'm going to add some onion powder. And light salt. This light salt has a little less sodium, about 50% less sodium than regular table salt. So this is a rustic, chunky type mashed potato. Now I'm adding butter. Butter will add additional flavor, fat, and creaminess. I think this is a Rachel Ray potato masher that I'm using. Next up, we're going to cook our frozen green beans. We're cooking these from frozen in the air fryer. I'm adding olive oil. And then I'm going to add my seasonings, the standard seasonings that you guys see me use all the time if you watch my other videos. If you don't, why not? Please check out some of my playlists. So I'm using black pepper, light salt. The typical way of making green beans, Southern style, is to boil them on the stove. But I want to try something different to see how the texture is and see how much I like it. So I'm adding onion powder as well as garlic powder. Experimenting in the kitchen is fun for me, and so I just like to try different methods of cooking the same dish. So like if you're tired of eating green beans, maybe try cooking it a different way will help make it more exciting for you. And you know, it's a healthy thing as long as you season it in a healthy way as well. So I'm just making sure the seasoning and the oil is tossed to coat all of my green beans, and then I'm heating my air fryer to 380 degrees, and I'm preheating it at 16 minutes, and by the time I put my green beans in, it will be at 13 minutes. Cook time. I always say whenever you cook your air fryer to be sure to check your air fryer halfway through the cook time to give it a shake and a toss to make sure everything is cooking evenly. And so that's what I'm doing with the green beans. I only put in half the green beans to cook at a time so that the air can be sure to circulate. So as that's going, my turkey thighs finished, and I cooked it in my toaster oven today instead of my big oven, and look at how delicious and tender they are. They are 165 degrees internal temperature, which is what you want for cooked poultry, and look at how delicious this is. I plated up the mashed potatoes and green beans on my plate, and then I added my turkey thighs and some of the sauce or broth from my turkey over my mashed potatoes. The turkey was so tender, the mashed potatoes were so creamy that I didn't even need to make a gravy. So that was completely awesome. If you think you might cook a small turkey meal like this year, let me know in the comments.